What does it feel like to have a decade of your life, your sweat, your loyalty, your late nights, erased in a single sentence on the very day your company needs you most? That's the gut punch I, Clara Hayes, felt on the morning of May 20, 2025, when Victor Grayson, the newly appointed president of Grayson Paving Company, fired me without warning. I stood in the small, cluttered office I'd called home for 10 years, my fingers still gripping the supplier payment ledger, as Victor's words hit like a freight train. My daughter's joining the company, so you need to resign. Today's your last day. The 20th was our payment deadline. Bank transfers were queued for long-time suppliers, and I'd planned courtesy visits to others with direct payments. Before I could process the shock, Victor smirked, adding, "You look like you can go home right away. I'll give you the day off. Just leave quickly." He pushed me out, the door snapping shut in my face with a sharp crack that echoed through the hallway. I stood frozen outside the office, my heart pounding, my mind a chaotic swirl of disbelief and betrayal. I joined Grayson Paving straight out of high school, a nervous 18-year-old eager to prove myself, and had grown into a cornerstone of the company over the past decade. We were a family-owned business, a tight-knit crew of about 20 employees, specializing in asphalt paving for local businesses and municipalities. When I started, the company was a haven under the leadership of Harold Grayson, Victor's father. Harold was the kind of boss who rolled up his sleeves alongside us, mentoring younger employees like me with patience and wisdom. His wife, Marjorie, was a daily fixture, her warm smile lighting up the office as she helped with filing or brought in homemade cookies to share during lunch breaks. Their daughter, Laura, was a force of nature, equally adept at managing field operations as she was at crunching numbers in the office. Laura's husband, Ethan, our site manager, earned the trust of the on-site crew with his fairness and hands-on approach. Despite being the founding family, the Graysons never acted superior. They treated us like equals, fostering a workplace where laughter mingled with the hum of machinery outside. Those early years were golden. I'd started as a clerical worker, handling invoices, scheduling deliveries, and keeping the books in order, but Harold saw potential in me. He taught me the ins and outs of the business, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to spot discrepancies in contracts, how to keep the team running smoothly even during peak season. Marjorie often pulled me aside to chat about life, her motherly advice a balm during tough days. Laura and I became close, sharing the administrative load. Our late-night coffee runs a ritual when deadlines loomed. Ethan would join us after a day on site, dirt smudged on his boots, cracking jokes that made the office feel like a second home. Grayson Paving wasn't just a job, it was a community, a place where I'd grown from a shy teenager into a confident woman who took pride in keeping the gears turning. But that harmony shattered at the end of last year. Harold's routine medical checkup revealed a cancer diagnosis, a blow that hit us all hard. He decided to retire as president, appointing Ethan as his successor, a choice we unanimously supported, wanting Harold to focus on treatment and recovery. We threw a small farewell gathering in the office, toasting to Harold's health with Marjorie's famous lemonade, our laughter tinged with worry but also hope. Then, out of nowhere, Victor Grayson, Harold's estranged eldest son, reappeared with his family, a shadow from a past I hadn't known existed. I'd heard whispers from senior employees about Victor, a troublemaker who'd been disowned 30 years ago after a youth filled with police run-ins, dropping out of high school, and dabbling in multi-level marketing scams and fraud. His sudden return stunned us, especially when he burst into the office one gray morning, falling to his knees before Harold. "Dad, I've realized my mistakes. Please forgive me," he pleaded, his voice thick with emotion. The scene was surreal in our open office, where the president's desk sat just feet from my own. I watched wide-eyed as Harold's face softened, torn between fatherly love and the pain of past betrayals. Marjorie clutched Harold's arm, tears streaming down her face, her joy at seeing her son palpable. "I apologize to everyone," Harold said, his voice trembling, "but I ask you to give Victor another chance." Laura, Ethan, and the senior employees exchanged uneasy glances. They knew Victor's history better than I did, but we couldn't refuse Harold's heartfelt plea, especially given his fragile health. Victor, his wife, and their college-aged daughter moved into the Grayson family annex, Victor taking a nominal role as an employee, his wife assisting with household chores. I only saw their daughter once, a brief visit where she seemed quiet, her eyes darting around the office as if unsure of her place. Harold and Marjorie believed Victor had changed, hardened by life's struggles into a better man. Marjorie, especially, was overjoyed, talking endlessly about rebuilding the company as a family. But cracks appeared almost immediately. Victor began asserting dominance, declaring, "I'm the eldest son, I should be the next president," a claim that strained his relationship with Laura and Ethan, who'd been running the company seamlessly. In front of Harold, Victor played the part of a diligent worker, but I saw the truth. He did little, often disappearing for hours, leaving the rest of us to pick up the slack. His attitude was worse. He'd sneer at the crew, saying, "Physical labor's for workers, or you're all just worker ants, work silently." His arrogance grated on everyone, and younger employees soon complained to Harold, "We can't work under him." Harold and Marjorie, ever hopeful, begged us to be patient, promising to address Victor's behavior. 3 months ago, Harold's cancer took a sharp turn for the worse, landing him in the hospital. Victor seized the opportunity, declaring himself president despite our protests that Ethan was the rightful choice. To my dismay, Harold and Marjorie, perhaps clouded by parental love or declining clarity, sided with Victor, their biological son, over their capable son-in-law. The once warm office turned cold, tension hanging heavy as Laura and Ethan worked behind the scenes to keep things afloat. I was left to handle all administrative tasks alone, previously split between Marjorie, Laura, and me, often staying past midnight, the date flipping on my computer screen before I drag myself home. Victor, meanwhile, treated admin work as a joke, spending his days at bars, betting on races, or gambling, leaving me to clean up his messes. The breaking point came over a company expense. Victor had been using the corporate card for personal splurges, dinners, bets, even a new watch, charges I'd reluctantly overlooked to keep the peace. But a $4,000 receipt for his wife's corrective underwear pushed me too far. "I can't approve this," I said, handing it back, my voice trembling. "Why not?" he demanded, his face reddening. "It's for my wife. She's the president's wife. She needs to look good." "That's not a business expense," I shot back, incredulous. His response floored me. "Then let's sell corrective underwear as a new venture, threaten clients to buy or we cancel contracts. $22,000 for one, for $1,000 a set, easy money." I recoiled, horrified. "That's unacceptable. It'll ruin our credibility." From that day, I became his target, enduring daily berating, his disdain a constant weight. I considered quitting, but loyalty to Harold, concern for the team, and my financial needs kept me tethered, until today's abrupt firing. I confronted Victor, desperation in my voice. "I can't leave without notice or handover, today's payment day." His face flushed with anger. "Shut up. My daughter's starting, so resign. Let suppliers wait, threaten to switch if they don't give it free." I gaped, stunned. "That's not how it works." He sneered. "You're useless. My daughter has a degree. She'll handle it, no questions. Leave now." Defeated, I gathered my things, my hands shaking as I stuffed files into my bag. I called Laura, warning her of the chaos, and stepped into the crisp morning air, guilt gnawing at me for the clients left hanging. As a shareholder with 10% from the employee stock plan, I knew my firing violated labor laws. I could claim severance and back pay later. For now, I needed to clear my head. I drove to the beach, the waves calling me to a moment of peace after the storm. What if a single phone call after your unjust firing could expose a web of lies, forcing a family to confront the chaos they've unleashed on their own company? That's the twist I, Clara Hayes, stumbled into on May 21, 2025, the morning after my abrupt dismissal from Grayson Paving Company. The beach had offered a brief respite, the rhythmic crash of waves washing away some of the sting from Victor Grayson's sneering, "You're useless." But as I checked my phone in the locker room, reality crashed back. Missed calls, emails, and voicemails flooded my screen. Among them, a panicked message from Victor. "What's going on? They say I'm not the real president. Explain yourself." I let out a dry chuckle, the irony sinking in, and opened Laura's email. Payments processed smoothly, everything's handled. Relief mingled with lingering guilt for leaving in anger, but a voicemail from Harold Grayson, frail yet urgent, pulled me back. That evening, I drove to the hospital, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and determination, unaware that this visit would unravel Victor's facade and set the stage for a reckoning. The hospital room was dimly lit, the antiseptic scent mingling with the faint aroma of Marjorie's lavender perfume as I stepped inside. Harold lay in the bed, his once robust frame shrunken by cancer, an oxygen tube curling under his nose. Marjorie sat beside him, her eyes red from crying, while Victor paced near the window, his face a storm of confusion and anger. Harold's gaze softened as he saw me. "Clara, I'm truly sorry for my foolish son," he rasped, his voice weak but laced with regret. Victor spun around, his voice booming. "What's this about me not being president? Explain yourself." Harold raised a trembling hand, silencing him with a stern, "Quiet." I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and began to unravel the truth. "Victor, you never had legal authority," I said, my voice calm but firm. "The title president is just an internal position. It doesn't carry legal weight like a representative director, the person legally responsible for the company's actions. Changing that role requires formal procedures, which weren't followed." I explained how, 3 months ago, when Victor pushed to replace Laura, and the veteran employees had opposed it fiercely. I'd proposed a compromise, Victor as a figurehead president, with Harold remaining the representative director. If Victor proved his worth, gaining the team's trust, we'd initiate the legal process to formalize his role. If not, the backup plan was to remove him or close the company, paving the way for Laura and Ethan's new venture. Laura had doubted Victor's change from the start, but Harold and Marjorie, clinging to hope, had backed him, until his firing of me snapped them awake. Harold's eyes met mine, a flicker of shame in them. "If you want to lead, learn and take care of your employees," he said, his words heavy with years of wisdom. "I've told you this many times." Victor scoffed, crossing his arms. "It's not a big deal. Can't we just handle the procedures now?" Harold slumped against the pillows, his face etched with despair. "No, it's not possible. Our company offers stock to employees who want it. Clara owns 10%, making her a major shareholder. Other shareholders won't support you either." Victor's face drained of color, his bravado crumbling. "I have no shares," he stammered. "I plan to pass mine to you if you proved yourself as president," Harold said, his voice breaking. "Were you only interested in my wealth, thinking I didn't have much time left?" Marjorie, tears streaming, whispered, "Clara was the only one who gave you a chance." I turned to Victor, my resolve hardening. "I resign, effective immediately," I said, my tone steady. "But I expect my severance pay, 1 month's salary, and unpaid overtime and holiday pay. As a shareholder, I'll file with the Labor Standards Office to remove anyone detrimental to the company." I explained how Laura had been visiting clients, successfully shifting them to her new venture, Horizon Paving Solutions, with most employees poised to follow. Victor's eyes widened, his voice cracking as he threatened, "That's impossible. I'll sue you." Harold intervened, his authority still commanding despite his frailty. "I am the representative director. You have no such authority," he said firmly. Victor sank to his knees, his hands trembling, and I felt a complex swirl of emotions, regret for the lost potential, disappointment in his choices, and a quiet sense of closure. "If you changed your approach when you returned, it could have been different," I said, my voice soft but firm. "There were ample opportunities for understanding if you'd made efforts to learn and adapt. But you squandered them, a classic case of reaping what you sow." The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging in the air. Marjorie reached for my hand, her grip weak. "Clara, I owe you a sincere apology. I regret the trouble my love for my son caused you. Please tell me what you'd like to do." I squeezed her hand, offering a small smile. "I've said my piece. Laura's handling the transition. Let her lead the way forward." The aftermath unfolded swiftly. Harold, devastated by Victor's betrayal, decided to shut down Grayson Paving. A painful but necessary end. Victor, now unemployed, faced a grim future. His wife's attempt to pivot the company into selling corrective underwear floundered, her aggressive sales tactics landing them in legal hot water for pyramid scheme involvement. They were arrested weeks later, their college-aged daughter left to find her own path, her whereabouts unknown. The Grayson Annex stood empty, boxes of unsold underwear a sad relic of their failed scheme. As I left the hospital that night, the cool air brushing my face, I felt the weight of the day lift slightly. Victor's downfall was his own making, and though I pitied the family's fracture, I knew I'd done all I could to honor Harold's legacy, until his son's greed tore it apart. What if the betrayal that shattered your career became the catalyst for a fresh start, turning a painful dismissal into a triumph of resilience and purpose? That's the unexpected redemption Clara Hayes, found in the days following my abrupt firing from Grayson Paving Company on May 20, 2025. After the hospital confrontation where I'd exposed Victor Grayson's lack of legal authority as president, Harold's decision to shut down the company marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of something new. Victor's downfall, his family's legal troubles, and the collapse of their ill-fated schemes left a void, but they also cleared the path for Laura and Ethan to rebuild. On May 22nd, I woke to the sound of seagulls still echoing in my mind from my beach day escape, a sense of cautious hope stirring in my chest. I wasn't just a discarded clerical worker. I was a 10% shareholder who'd stood up for what was right. Now, joining Laura's new venture, I found not just a job, but a renewed sense of purpose, proving that sometimes the best revenge isn't vengeance, it's building something better. Laura and Ethan wasted no time launching Horizon Paving Solutions, a new company that carried the spirit of Grayson's golden years under Harold's leadership. They retained most of Grayson's clients through Laura's tireless visits, her charm and professionalism winning them over despite Victor's chaos. The majority of the staff followed, eager to escape the toxic atmosphere Victor had created. I joined as office manager, my decade of experience a cornerstone for the fledgling operation. The new office, a modest space just a few blocks from Grayson's old location, felt like a breath of fresh air. Sunlight streamed through large windows, illuminating rows of desks where employees already buzzed with activity. Laura had painted the walls a soft blue, a nod to the calm we all craved, and a small coffee station in the corner filled the air with the comforting scent of brewing beans. Ethan, fresh from a site visit, dropped by with a box of donuts, his easy grin a reminder of the camaraderie we'd lost, and now regained. My first week at Horizon was a whirlwind of activity, but it felt right. I set up the payment systems with ease, ensuring suppliers were paid on time, something Victor had dismissed as unnecessary. Clients called to confirm contracts, their relief palpable when I answered with the professionalism they'd come to expect from Grayson's better days. Laura worked alongside me, her field expertise complementing my administrative skills, while Ethan managed the crews with the same steady hand he'd always shown. The atmosphere echoed Harold's era, collaborative, respectful, with laughter weaving through the hum of printers and ringing phones. One afternoon, as I finalized a bank transfer, Laura leaned over my desk, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. "You're a lifesaver, Clara," she said, her voice warm. "We couldn't have done this without you." I smiled, the weight of the past weeks lifting slightly. "I'm just glad to be here," I replied, meaning every word. Marjorie's visit came unexpectedly on a quiet Thursday morning. I looked up from my computer to see her standing in the doorway, her gray hair neatly pinned, her eyes still carrying the exhaustion of recent months. She clutched a small box wrapped in simple brown paper, her hands trembling slightly. "Clara, may I speak with you?" she asked, her voice soft but heavy with emotion. I nodded, leading her to a small meeting room off the main office, the door closing with a soft click behind us. She sat across from me, her hands fidgeting with the box, and took a shaky breath. "I owe you a sincere apology," she began, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry for Victor's actions, for the trouble my love for my son caused you. You were our backbone at Grayson, and I let you down." Her voice broke, and I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. "Marjorie, I understand," I said gently. "You wanted to believe in him. I did too for a while. She shook her head, wiping her eyes with a tissue. You gave him a chance when no one else would, and he betrayed that. Harold's heartbroken. He's proud of you, Clara, for standing up. She slid the box toward me. This is for you, a small thank you. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet, engraved with the words strength in loyalty, a gift that brought tears to my own eyes. I hugged her, the gesture healing wounds I hadn't realized I carried. Victor's fate, meanwhile, was a cautionary tale. After Grayson's closure, he and his wife tried to pivot into selling corrective underwear, a desperate echo of his absurd expense scheme. Their aggressive sales tactics, threatening clients, pushing pyramid-style deals, quickly drew legal scrutiny. Within weeks, they were arrested for fraud, their scheme collapsing under the weight of their own greed. The Grayson Annex, once a symbol of family reunion, stood empty, boxes of unsold underwear cluttering the garage, a sad testament to their failure. Their daughter, whom I'd only met once, found work elsewhere. Rumors placed her at a retail job in another city, starting over far from her parents' mess. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, caught in the fallout of her father's choices, but I knew she'd be better off forging her own path. One sunny afternoon, Laura called me into her office, a small space decorated with photos of her and Ethan on various job sites. She handed me a contract, her expression a mix of gratitude and excitement. You're a partner now, 5% ownership, she said, her voice steady. Your loyalty saved us, Clara. This company is as much yours as it is ours. I stared at the document, my throat tightening with emotion. The recognition, after Victor's disdain, felt like a balm to my soul. Thank you, I whispered, signing with a trembling hand. That weekend, Horizon hosted a company picnic at a nearby park, the grassy field alive with laughter as employees and their families gathered. Ethan grilled burgers, Laura organized a tug-of-war game, and I watched from a picnic table, a soda in hand, marveling at the community we'd rebuilt. Harold called later that day, his voice weak but warm. You made it right, Clara, he said. I'm proud of you. Weeks later, a letter from the Labor Standards Office arrived, confirming my severance and back pay, a sum that covered my expenses and left enough for a dream trip to the mountains I'd always wanted to visit. Standing on my balcony that evening, the city lights twinkling below, I texted Laura. Best revenge is building something better. Horizon wasn't just a job, it was my victory, not over Victor, but for myself. My role, my partnership, my community. They were proof that resilience and integrity could outshine greed. As I prepared for another day at Horizon, I smiled, knowing I'd turned a painful fall into a soaring new beginning, one where I thrived authentically, surrounded by those who valued me for who I was.